What is up, guys? Welcome back. I am out here working on Project Disruptor, and today I'm going to show you how to turn this crusty old brake master cylinder into this freshly coated, awesome looking rear brake caliper. So let's do it. Before we dive too deep in today's video, I just want to let you know we will be working with chemicals, so if you're going to try and replicate what we're doing here, you want to be sure to have your safety glasses, possibly a respirator, or at the very least a very well ventilated space. Very important. The intent of this video is to give you guys some ideas and possibly save you from having to send your parts out to do coatings. It can be very expensive, it can be very time consuming, a lot of guys don't know where to get started, and I think I found a really great alternative that would allow you to do this at home yourself and really work on your own bike, which is great. So here's a quick look at what we'll need. We'll need some acetone, a mixing cup, some duct tape, your beat up old part, some gloves, some clean rags, and a few other little things. Now, a few more items you'll need: a little bit of baling wire. You'll be using the baling wire to hang your part once you're done coating it and let it cure. Also a heat gun. You may or may not need to use this. I like to use it to get the coating to flash between applications. If you don't have one, that's totally okay. A lot of you guys aren't going to have a blast cabinet in your shop or at home, and that's totally fine. Maybe you have a buddy with one, or maybe you have someone locally that can prep your parts for you. Comes in really handy, but if you don't have one, don't sweat it. You're still going to be able to get through your application, and it's all good. The last few years, coatings have been a really big deal in the motocross industry. A lot of it is borrowed from firearms technology. Cerakote and ceramic coatings have been the #1 thing you'll see going on brake calipers, fork lugs, what have you, engine cases, and for a good reason. The stuff's really durable. It goes on very thin. So in terms of tolerances, that's really great that it doesn't go on heavy or thicken the part. Alright, the star of today's video is no doubt this Brownell's Aluma-Hyde. This is the coating I'll be using on a lot of the bike parts. In doing my research, ways to DIY coatings at home, I came across this stuff. There are a few others. I believe it's called Duracoat. Now, in doing tests with this particular coating, I'm really impressed with it. It looks amazing. It has a cure time of 14 days. It gets really hard. It doesn't add a lot of material to the part. I think it's going to work out really great, and it's definitely going to look really great. In terms of coatings as a whole, everything wears out. Powder coat, paint, ceramic coatings, you name it, it's going to come off the bike. The first thing we do is take these bikes out into the dirt, smash them into the ground, they get roosted, they get crashed. Basically, if you've ever purchased a brand new bike, the first thing you notice when you got off your first few laps of the track are that your frame rails were already messed up or your engine cases were already messed up. This is going to be going on some very key spots of the bike that don't take a lot of damage, and aside from that, I believe it to be pretty durable anyway. So let's get going with this video. First thing on the to-do list, we're going to start removing parts from this brake master cylinder. I'll start with the cap, move on to the lever, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove the plunger inside the bore of the master cylinder itself. Using brake cleaner intermittently to keep everything grease free is a great way to make the job a lot easier on yourself. Otherwise things get pretty slimy, so nice to have that around. Also note I'm using gloves while using this harsh chemical. This stuff is not good for your skin, so make sure to protect yourself. I like to put everything into a Ziploc bag and make sure it's labeled, so later on, if I'm going to be reusing any of these parts and or using them to compare against a rebuild kit that I've got all of the right parts, I'll have them nicely set aside, and it'll be easy to identify what pieces I still need to buy or don't need to buy. For some of the internals like the plunger, spring, washer, and circlip, I'll put them in a second Ziploc bag just to keep them clean and isolated from some of the dirtier parts, like the bolts that were holding the handlebar clamp and things like that. Next up, you'll need a clean container for acetone. I like to dip the parts in acetone and get them good and degreased before I put them into the blast cabinet. This ensures that the media that I'm using within the blast cabinet doesn't get contaminated and last much longer. It will also keep it from getting contaminated by brake fluid, grease, oil, or whatever other chemical substance might be on some of your parts. If you have compressed air too, it's a really good idea to blow the residual acetone out. There will also be some oil that comes out with it most of the time, in which case you can just send it back through the acetone bath once again. Alright, so we have our parts out of the acetone bath. We've used a little compressed air. Acetone dries very quickly, which is nice. Just to reiterate, you guys need to protect your skin when you're using this stuff. Even with these general use gloves, the acetone will literally just melt them and go right through. So don't touch the part directly. Be very careful or get some better gloves. This stuff is not good for your skin. You just need to take your time and be patient. You got your whole life ahead of you, so take care of yourself. We're going to go ahead and mask everything off that we don't want blast media to get into next, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So starting with a little bit of duct tape, or really any type of tape, I like to use duct tape because it's the most durable. Go ahead and tape over all of the holes that are open or bores that are open in the part, and proceed to use a very sharp new razor blade to trim the excess around the edges of the orifices and holes in the part. Then go ahead and mask off the sight glass on the master cylinder. As for the brake line inlet, I'm actually just using an old banjo bolt, which is the type of bolt that holds a brake line to the master cylinder anyway. I'll finish masking this part by using a clean blue towel and inserting it inside of the master cylinder's bore where the plunger goes, followed by a piece of tape. Alright, this part is ready to go. We're going to take it back, throw it in the blast cabinet, get it cleaned up and looking good as new. Alright, how'd we do? Not bad, not bad. Nice and clean. Ready for the acetone bath. And then, ready for coatings. Let's see if I can get the scars out of this piece. Got some pretty good gouging here. See what the old blast cabinet can do about that. Not too shabby. I think we're gonna run it. No longer is it red. Beautiful, looking good. Nice and clean, looking good. Now, fortunately and unfortunately, you have to remask all the same areas and get it ready for coating. You can't stick the tape into the acetone. You'll end up with this gooey, sticky mess, and you don't want no part of that. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and retape this just like I did before, and then we're gonna go ahead and get into the fun part. Not that all of this wasn't fun to begin with. All right, we're about ready to lay down some coatings, but I like to get the product up in temperature a little bit. I set it right on the shop table, and I let the heat gun just run against it for a few minutes. It's time to bust out your baling wire, or whatever wire you like to use to hang your parts when you get ready to coat them. I like to go ahead and snip off about 10 inches of wire. Once I'm done cutting a little bit of wire, I wind it back into a spiral, and I also prep it in the acetone. This stuff is super dirty and you need to get it cleaned up before you hang any parts off of it. Alright, time to hang the part on some baling wire. I like to make a small hook on the end here, one that's wide enough so that the part can hang, but it doesn't physically touch the side of the part, the hook that is. On the other end, something like that will do. Now you can go ahead and hang your part on the hook and we can get coating. So selecting a hole on the part you want to coat, I would opt for something that's not going to be seen. In this case, it is the bottom of the master cylinder where the bolt hole is. And you can simply run the wire through the part, close the loop a little bit. As you can see, the wire isn't actually touching the sides of the part where it's gone through the hole I've selected. And so now we can go ahead and take our warmed up can of Brownell's Aluma-Hyde, shake it up a little bit and get spraying. And as mentioned, make sure your eyes, respiratory, and hands are protected. There's coat number one. I'm gonna head inside, use the heat gun, flash this layer of coating, let it dry a little faster, and then we'll come back and put another coating on. Something else important to mention about this product is that you only have about 30 minutes per the can's instruction between coatings. If you've missed your 30-minute window before you do your second, third, fourth application, whatever, you have to wait 14 days for this stuff to cure. It does get harder, and that's why it's so tough. So I've got to go ahead and flash this stuff quickly with the heat gun. Some of you guys will experience this tip clogging, shooting out sort of a mess onto your part. To avoid that, I like to use brake clean and spray this tip out between coatings if I know I'm going to be about 15 minutes, because 15 minutes in hot weather, this thing will be clogged and you'll be screwed. So you can save yourself from buying an extra pack of these if you just clean it out between uses, maybe right before you flash your part. So I got to go do that now. So to flash the part between sprays, you just need to hit it with the heat gun. Don't get too close. You can kind of bubble this stuff up and melt it. Just give it a nice even layer of heat. Go in a circle, and once it's flashed or looks like it's dried, you can put your second coat on. Part looks dry, it's flashed in other words. Time for coating number 2. All right, looks so good. I'm gonna go ahead and let this thing air dry. I'm gonna leave the tape on it. I'm gonna leave the banjo bolt in it. I'm not gonna touch it for 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks in this shop that gets nice and hot, it should be ready to go, actually ready to use. It is very impressionable right now as the coating is very soft. You can actually dent it. I dropped a part a couple weeks ago when I was testing this stuff, and it wasn't a big deal. I was able to actually use the acetone to wash the product off, reblast it, and recoat it. The whole process in itself is really very fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and hang this with all the other parts. I'm gonna let it cure, and let's go take a look at all the other stuff I've already done. There's all the other stuff I've previously coated in our newly hanging swinging front master cylinder. It's actually off of a Honda going on the YZ. This stuff altogether has not even consumed one full can of Aluma-Hyde yet, so that's great also. Alright, so there you have it. Just one more option in your guys' arsenal of coatings to choose from. I really wanted to give this stuff a shot. I wanted to be able to show you guys how you can do this at home and give you just one more option. This stuff originally came out marketed towards the gun crowd, just like Cerakote. Guys that are spraying this on their guns need it to be durable. They are holstering their guns, unholstering their guns, they're shooting their guns. There are a lot of moving parts in firearms and therefore a lot of wear. So if this is good enough for the gun crowd, and this is good enough for the dirt bike crowd, which usually they're one and the same anyways. As far as Project Disruptor, I went for a matte black on the brakes, and then this is their stainless color, which I'll be using in other parts of the bike. I also picked up a dark Parkerizing gray. I'm not sure I'm going to use this color, but they have several to choose from. They have a lot of the typical gun colors you might see when looking to coat your gun. That may be a downside to this product, where Cerakote guys are blending their own colors. They have a lot of cool copper or bronze or some of the more interesting colors like the ones you may have seen on Project Gun Show, our CR250. But all in all, this stuff's about 20 bucks a can. I've left some affiliate links in the description below if you guys would like to check these out. So far, so good for me. The parts that are done now actually have a very nice feel to them. They're no longer impressionable. They're extremely hard, and I know these are gonna look so good on the bike. I got a lot of flack for doing the Line X on the CR250 frame. This is one of those things. A lot of guys in the beginning, oh, it's gonna look like crap. What'd you do to that frame? Bike was done. You know the rest of the story. It looked amazing. I became such a fan of this stuff already that I figured, what the hell? I'm going for it. I'm gonna do the entire frame. This frame's gonna fit right in the blast cabinet. No reason why I can't prep it, spray it. The only difficulty is going to be getting down layers in that 30-minute window, because as you can see, a frame is a lot of ground to cover. So anyways, thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a like. Consider subscribing for more. We have more sponsored products coming in every day. We're just getting started with the bike, and we're gonna create one mind-blowing YZ250. So go ahead and let me know if you guys are gonna try this stuff. Let me know what you're gonna put it on. I intend to use it in quite a few other places on the bike. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys on the next one.